We're back.
Did you say we're live?
We're live.
Wiki Livebrush.
Welcome back to the Kate and Ray Show. Featuring sometimes, but in a lesser role, Tyler Jacobson.
Roll the Moobot. Oh wait, is that Tyler or Jacobson?
Yeah, but Tyler Jacobson. Me.
Yeah. How do you hello everyone. I hope hello friends. I see a bunch of people in the chat already, which is awesome. Welcome back to another thrilling episode of Livebrush. I'm Ray Bonilla. I'm a painter, illustrator from Buffalo. And to my left is a full-time butler in a three-piece, but sometimes painter, Tyler Jacobson. Tyler, you want to introduce yourself?
And the dogs, everybody. Hold on a sec.
Oh my God.
Technical difficulties.
Raymond, could you speak, please?
Yeah, I can.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah. It sounds like you're. Holy shit.
We're gonna have to.
Yeah. How's that?
Only left channel? Oh,
Listen,
Sure.
we're doing what we
So
can.
for those of you
folks.
still joining us, we are we're still in pre-show, I guess.
Tyler's only on left channel.
yeah, it's a perpetual technical difficulties that we.
This is streaming life, and Ray is
And Ray is nowhere.
Interesting.
Where's nowhere?
Now I hear Kate. Yep, that's because I'm coming in. I'm coming on your left.
Oh, yeah, you're on my mic.
Now let's make sure. Is this the Focusrite?
Yeah,
USB?
that's the one.
That's the one. Okay.
It's plugged in.
And we see when Ray's talking, we get those nice levels. Okay.
Testing. Livebrush.
It sounded like Tyler was in my office whispering directly into my left ear. All right, keep it going, y'all. If you're not hearing Ray.
Yeah, if you're not hearing me, let me know. Sounded like Tyler was in my office whispering directly into my left ear. Wasn't that bad though. Ray is good. Ray's good. According to the Fat Baron, and that's all the proof that I need.
Yeah. Even though the Fat Baron is banned.
You're back in.
Yeah, I don't have okay. Audio is perfect now, says Avidity.
Okay.
Oh, even mine? Or am I still only left? I mean, it looks like I'm only left.
I don't know how to fix that, so you're living that left life. Sorry, babe.
Did I hit a button or something on my...
Did you hit a button? You
yes.
would.
F in the chat if you think it's Tyler's fault.
Okay.
I'm now in charge of this thing, and I've learned a lot. And by a lot, I mean next to nothing.
Yep, you see? A lot of F's in the chat already. Yeah.
I'm still left.
Okay. Yeah, we'll Google it, folks. Okay.
Enough
We're
of
getting
these
started.
Games. Tyler and Ray have to paint, or I am going to cut off both of your legs for real this time.
So you've heard the voice from the great beyond. So we've got to go paint. So today I'm going to be continuing to work on my color study for my painting. I'm going to hopefully get a good amount done here. I'm painting in acrylics, and I'll be placing in all these darks and working on getting the sense of light kind of in this area right here. I like to focus on an area just to sometimes to key the piece so that I kind of know the entire range of values. So Tyler, what are you working on?
I'm going to... So this is the one we kind of decided on last week. The all red or mostly red image. And I'm going to try to show you guys how I typically work through an image. So at this point, once I would get to this stage, I would start sort of tweaking little details and refining shapes and building things out through brush strokes. Just so I can sort of focus in on what I want the details to be like. Maybe I want this night to be posed a little bit differently. So this is all. So I'm essentially focusing. I'm zooming in more on. I keep zooming in basically on the thumbnail, and making it bigger and bigger and bigger, and then refining the details over and over and over again until it's just right. So that's where I'm going to go today. I'm just going to keep working on details on this, and then hopefully next week that'll allow me to get into a really tight drawing and move into a painting for this.
Sweet. Tyler, when did
you have a crazy dog over here too? Sorry.
When did you start doing that? I was going to ask you last week, but I forgot.
What do you mean?
When did you start working on like just like super tight thumbnails?
I gotta say it probably started maybe 5 or 6 years ago. Once I found this sort of weird canvasy brush, I really started liking to work on my sketches that way, and I ended up doing it. Oh, did we get left and right?
Looks like it.
What kind of magic did you do?
I'm a wizard.
Anyways, so yeah, it's pretty much when I found this canvas brush, that's when I started, and I do a lot of my thumbnail work with this. I even have some magic cards where I did my thumbnails with this canvasy sketchy brush. Here, I can zoom in if the stream can't see it, so it makes more sense. But you can see this level of canvas texture. I even have some magic cards where I just went all the way to final with this texture still in the image. Most of the time I try and paint it all the way out, or just get rid of it. It gets pretty annoying because it's so big when you zoom in.
Yeah.
You when you try and do more fidelity beyond this, the canvas is crazy distracting. So I try to move into a tighter image at this stage and then go to drawing. Like I could and I probably will, between this week and next week, I might try and make like a little maquette or something to get pretty good lighting on this guy. But a lot of times I don't do that, so I want the chat and everyone watching to see that, like, how I typically work. So I'll probably just stick with how I usually work, which is sort of reference light. The reference I will probably have up is a version of some photo reference of the spacesuits from that time period, like the 60s.
Okay, so like the 60s.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you know who also works like that.
Who?
Our Sir Alex Ross.
You're kidding me.
No.
So he goes like, okay, so I've seen a lot of Alex's. I've seen a lot of his. I know he's a knight, but that's really great.
You got knighted? What did that happen?
Well, the queen, she's throwing out those knighthoods, even to non.
She came to Chicago and where he's at, and fell in love with the city.
But I always thought he got tons and tons of reference first. I didn't know he kind of hold on.
Yeah.
Ray, give me 1 sec, man. I'll be right back.
Okay. All right.
I'm just gonna go send my dog into the nether region.
Okay.
That sounds really wrong. Let's take another take on that. I'll edit that out. We're not going to talk about dogs going into anybody's nether regions.
Finally, we got our show back, Kate.
Finally. Oh yeah. What's your favorite embarrassing Tyler story?
With this time where like we started this stream and he like forgot he had to get off midway through. First he was coming around on one side of the audio channel. Didn't know why.
No way. Oh.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
What a maroon, you know?
What a maroon.
All right. She's in purgatory now.
Yeah, so the whole chat thinks it's
Nope, didn't work.
It got worse.
I think it might have gotten worse.
Fredo.
Is there like a soundproof box that we can buy?
Yeah, probably.
Just they're both dog crate size. Both dogs go into them.
I love these corgi emotes. That they're great.
Zmoch just gave us 500 bits in
Whoa.
exchange for our
Zmoch.
terrible dogs.
Nice. Well, thank you. Thank you.
you.
See, Moch.
Dogs win the day. So
Yeah.
what were we talking about before I had to?
So Alex Ross. So for those of you who don't know who Alex Ross is, Alex Ross, Alex Lalex Ross, ROSS, comic book artist, painted comic books, incredible. Probably one of the greatest. I think one of the greatest illustrators living in our time.
Yeah, I agree. I've
You know.
long been a big fan.
Yeah,
I
and so
feel like usually we're like, don't leave the stream to go find out who this person is. Look them up later. This, I would make an exception. I would
Yeah.
say if you can only have one browser tab open it to alexrossart.com.
Yeah. Is that what his site is? alexrossart.com?
Yes, thanks to Saucefire in the chat. I know that.
Thanks, Saucefire.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So the Fat Baron said everyone should just go buy a copy of Kingdom Come. I was literally just going to say
Kingdom Come is so good.
As like the Fat Baron had said, let's just go buy a copy of Kingdom Come. It's really great.
Yeah, and Mythology, which is also wonderful.
No, we only have time for one book recommendation, Tyler. That's
two
it.
Books. Just
That's
two.
it.
But if you can get that, there's that one version of Kingdom Come that is, it's like hardbound and it has a bunch of his sketches in the back. I highly recommend that version of it.
So he takes a ton of reference, but he apparently does thumbnails like really tight, and then gets reference. And so his thumbnails, if you see it in his, do you own Mythology?
Yeah, totally.
So if you see it, like there's stuff that he does, like that Batman Superman story that he did for Mythology. He shows the whole process where he thumbnails it, and then he does like a tight sketch, and then he does like a super finished sketch. The tight sketch is done without the reference.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Shit. Well, it goes to show that having good drawing skills goes a really long way.
It goes to show we got a question.
All right.
Hey, from Studio White in the chat. Hey, Ray, do you do a color study beforehand?
Why? Yes, I do. And you're looking at it right here. So this is a color study for a painting that's going to be 18 by 36 inches. So it's going to be a fairly large painting. Will I do it on stream? I guess I should. I got to figure out how the heck I'm going to go about doing that. But yeah, I think I will.
What on stream?
The final painting. The
final
painting.
I was like, you're doing the color study right now on stream.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so I'm doing a color study right now.
That's what we want to do, right? We want to take these all the way to final for everybody.
Yeah, that's true. We should do that. Yeah. I forgot we agreed on that.
I mean, we don't have to, but I think
no, we did. It's called From the Ground Up.
Yeah, from the ground up.
We've been doing
to halfway to the surface, and then we stop.
We've been doing weeks of promoting this series. And I just asked, like, well, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe we will. Maybe we'll go through with it. Maybe we won't.
No, I don't know. Maybe. We'll see. Maybe I should just cook. I don't know.
Wait, I mean, I've had you cooking, so get little regs in there. I'd be up for that.
Yeah. Breakfast stream.
See, this is I'm going to have to stay loose on this because all this canvas texture is where I'm going to start having problems. It makes it hard to tighten anything up.
Yeah, it's when you paint like painterly, super painterly, that's one of the things that can get a little tricky because there's if you want to, it's hard to get a ton of fidelity if something is super painterly and abstracted. It's like a fight that you have to kind of a balance that you have to strike, right?
Yeah, and I'm so used to. I've done digital stuff for so long. I'm so used to being able to go like, okay, now I'm going to zoom into this right here, and I'm going to render the hell out of this fold, and it's
right.
It's never good. I've been doing a lot more oil painting lately, and I'm learning to stay way far back and rely on that you know, lots of little marks makes the details, as opposed to lots and lots of tiny rendering.
You had a bunch of paintings revealed recently.
Yeah,
That's pretty exciting.
a set I'm really happy with. A magic set called Kaldheim, which is all like Viking stuff. And I on that concept push that we had, when was it? Almost 2 years ago, probably now.
Wow.
I think I broke my brain for a good amount of time. I did so much stuff on that push, and there was a lot of people there. We had Steve Prescott, we had Jen Ravenna, Chris Ron was on that push. I think Zach Stella might have been on that push. It might have been right before he switched over to being an AD there. I'm trying to remember everybody that was there. But anyways, we created a ton of concepts, and I think a first in Magic history where most of the stuff we did went directly into the World Guide for the production. So, but yeah, I had like 5 paintings revealed for that set recently.
Wow. 5. Whew.
It's difficult. It's like 6 waves, or it's like 6-week waves of art that you do for Magic. So that 5 pieces in one set means that's it's essentially 5 paintings in 12 weeks. And that's why I think I was nearly broken by that set.
Did you do all of them in oils?
Yeah, they were all in oils.
Nice. And
I was well into my oil journey by then.
Yeah. Well, because like you had did the auctions for all of the paintings come up yet, or?
Yeah, they've all gone out now. So I've spent the past couple of weeks just shipping stuff.
Wow. Yeah, well, congrats to everyone that won the piece. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Dr. Mondo 7 in the chat says the Draugr wizard you shared yesterday is fantastic. I liked all of those. Doctor, I don't know if you swiped and saw the rest of them, but that whole Draugr set, I couldn't even choose which one was the best. They're so good.
Yeah, I saw yours, your post, Chris Ron's post, and Steve Prescott's.
Yeah, that was all of us have kind of asked Wizards if we can post everything. I think I have, 10 more images I want to post. So everyone stay tuned on social medias, because I'm going to try to post as much of the work, visual development work I did on that set as possible.
So this piece, I know we're like just trying to get this one piece done, since I almost bailed on my own project.
No, we're done with it.
It's
we're
just
not doing
it's so is this going to be another? Are you going to do another one of this, or are you going to switch it up?
No, I think I've zeroed in on this. I could sit here and negotiate with myself as to if this is the right color scheme over and over and over and over again. But I think I'll just pull the trigger, and this will be the one that I go with. Otherwise, I'll never decide.
Well, I like it. I think it's great, dude. So yeah. But are you painting this in oils?
Yeah, and I think I'll try and do I don't think I'll go very big, but I think once I get through this stage, I'll go. Well, I don't know. Maybe I won't. Our whole point here was to show people my full process, and
get that baby in oils.
Yeah, I think we'll do it. What do you think, chat? Should we do it in oils?
Yeah, F in the chat if you want Tyler to paint in oils like a real artist.
Yeah, a real artist would paint in oils. I am really interested in this particular piece being painted in oils, because one of the most fascinating things, and the hardest to accomplish even digitally, that Tyler's already smashed, of course, is that sense of a really bright light. Like every time we see like a beautiful sunset, I'll be like, how would you paint that? And he usually goes into some boring explanation and I tune out immediately. But to me, it's really technically fascinating how you get something that looks so brightly illuminated. And so I want to see Tyler accomplish that or fall flat on his face.
Oh,
Oh, I probably will. I mean, the unique aspect of oil paints is that it is really good because of the nature of the pigment. It's very good at being luminous, as everyone in the chat has seen from almost all of Ray's paintings. You know, he's got a few that aren't very luminous.
almost.
But basically, all of them are incredibly luminous, and
About a good 33% of Ray's paintings look like they're on their way to being luminous.
Maybe 34, like 34%.
If Tyler were to finish them off.
If I were to come in, if I were to come in and help Ray paint, it would work. No, I honestly, my relearning of oil painting lately has been mostly Ray helping me, and mostly my friend Chris Ron helping me to relearn all these things. So, without Ray and Chris Ron's help, I don't know what I'd be doing. Nothing.
Just trash. Hey, Studio White asks Ray, are you familiar with the works of John Rush and David Grove? Your work has a similar approach in the preparation phase.
Why? Yes, I am.
Yeah. You know, Ray.
Who
I'm
would ask
for
that?
Ray here. Ray knew David Grove personally, so.
Dude, I didn't know this until after last week's episode. Tyler casually tells me this story about you guys going to David Grove's funeral.
Yeah.
Do you want to please relate this incredible story?
It was surreal.
Okay, so I studied with. So John Rush is a really good friend of mine. He's one of my mentors, and so is David. I considered him a mentor and a really good friend. So I met him because I was looking through Spectrum Art magazine, and it was Spectrum, the annuals, and I saw this. I was looking at Tyler and I were studying in San Francisco at the time. I was looking to call up artists that were in the Bay Area to just meet and befriend and like network with. And I saw this awesome painting with it was backlit, the sun was coming down, it's like beautiful luminescent quality of it. And it was like of like knights riding through this like forest. And I was like, this is sweet. I'm like, I've never seen this before. Who is this person? So I looked, they had like all of the names, at least at the time. I don't know if they still do. They're the names of the artists and their contact numbers and their address. And so
what was it?
This was Spectrum? It's a Spectrum. Yeah, it was a Spectrum.
Yeah. That was back. I think you could opt in to have you still can, but you would opt in to have your information put in the book.
Well,
hey Ray, can you lean back a little bit?
Sure.
Your beautiful right half of your face is getting cut off.
Oh, it is? Okay. Is that better?
Much.
Okay. I got my paper towel in front of my my preview screen here. So I called him up, went over, and before I went over to his house, David Grove, I looked him up and then realized that he wasn't a young illustrator that just came onto the scene. He had been there for decades and had just been inducted into the Society of Illustrators Hall of Fame. So I had some catching up to do, and I became an instant fan of his work. And so I knew David over the years, even after I graduated, and I knew him right up until when he passed away. And so he had John Rush, I met him in San Francisco. I studied with him for a semester in San Francisco, and it was great. It was I met him and David at the same semester, which is kind of wild to even think about that.
That was your two directed studies, right?
Yeah, well, I wanted to study with David, and he refused to do it. He was like, I don't want to do it. You can come by my house, once every couple of months and show me some paintings.
That's
and
classic David. He was so like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. So David, man, he everything he did was to the highest quality, like everything, even down to like I don't even like everything he did, like his clothing, what he, the way his house was decorated, um, artistic process wise, reference, drawings. I mean, I saw, and he was pulling out all of these like, yeah, every one of his paintings was so meticulously done. Like I saw Pale Rider, the Clint Eastwood, Something Wicked This Way Comes. He did not have,
It's one of my favorites.
but he did have Never Cry Wolf. One of the, like, he had some lithographs of that. He did this. There was this painting called Pirate Freedom. Look that up. David Grove, Pirate Freedom.
Yeah.
I saw the original painting for that, and that thing blew my freaking mind. It was like a piece of light was in the painting. So yeah, it was great. And John, I learned so much about painting from John Rush, and I still talk to him to this day about painting. He's one of the smartest artists and the most thoughtful painters I've ever met. And yeah, he's great. And so I the idea of doing studies and stuff came from John, and so yeah. So good eye. Who was that? Had
That was Studio White, who's
Studio White?
An artist, if I'm not mistaken, Shane Patrick White, who I've met at Emerald City Comic Con before.
Sweet.
Very good.
Very, very, very talented comic artist.
Awesome.
We are blessed by his presence.
Well, thanks for asking the question, and I can't believe that those influences are coming through. That's wild. I would have never guessed that. I just yeah. So that's a
okay, but
compliment.
Please tell the story about the funeral, because Tyler was there, and so this is a great joint story. If it's not too personal.
Yeah, no. So David passed away, and I flew down. I called Tyler and I said, "Hey, David Grove passed away." And he was like, "Well, you want me to?" So he agreed to go with me, and we stayed with his. Because you weren't living in the Bay Area anymore at the time, right?
No, I was up in Seattle, I think, by then.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm there. I just
jumped
on a plane.
So Tyler, we stayed with Tyler's parents, and that was a lot of fun. And then we went to this his he had like it wasn't a funeral, it was more like a get together in his favorite cafe, and it was like wild. Like the who's who of illustration, at least on the West Coast, were there, like old school illustrators, but Greg Manches was there.
Baron Story was there, wasn't he?
Baron freaking Story was there. Robert Hunt was there. I mean, you had Chuck Pyle. You had oh my God, Bruce. It's like one of the great illustrators, Bruce something. Oh my God, Bruce Wolf, I think his name was. Yeah, all these people. It was wild, and it was just having fun, and it was just crazy, and people partied really, really late, and then yeah, it was just like crazy. Then remember, we went over to his house after.
That was the crazy part, man. Like, we're hanging out with these friends of his. From, like,
his brother and his
They're all telling stories of like how he would put cars together and drive them down coast in California and stuff.
Yeah. He wrote a book, an autobiography / art book. It's called the Illustrated Life or something like that.
It's phenomenal,
and it's great. He's like, he lived a life of he was like James Bond, as like they're just like stories. Like, he never told me these stories, but like he was talking about stories like he was in Europe and he would like go to this soiree that's like fancy party with one woman and then leave with another woman, and he'd be like dressed up in a tux and like riding motorcycles down and like around these small Italian villas, and like I'm like, what? But he was like one of the coolest people I've ever met. Yeah. Pretty awesome guy. Gone too soon, but his artwork is it's great to see his artwork kind of coming around, and I was happy to introduce him to a bunch of new fans. Because he had done that.
You made me a fan of him for sure. And
yeah. And he got I had known at the time there was this podcast called Sidebar,
Oh yeah, that's right.
And I listened to it. I loved it. It actually, they came back. Did you know that, Tyler?
Oh really? Finally.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah. It's called Sidebar Forever is the new one, and it's great. If you've never heard of the art podcast, it's great. It's Dwight Clark, Swain Hunt, and Adrian Johnson, and they just talk about comics. They talk about art. They're Adrian and Dwight are artists themselves. Swain is like he did music production and stuff, but they're really just intelligent fans, and it's really great. But they had interviewed all of these artists, at the time, and I got introduced to so many artists because of Sidebar. Um, I could go down the list. Tommy Lee Edwards, Jason Shawn Alexander, Cecilia Collier. All these awesome like comics artists, even from the 70s. P. Craig Russell. Like I'd never heard of him, and so I had contacted them saying if they had, if they knew of David Grove and if they'd be interested. And David didn't know anything. He wasn't really very tech savvy. He hated technology, which is kind of funny because he was like ahead of his time,
Yeah, it's so
But
weird to think he hated tech, but it's like his whole style was dictated by his use of the tech that was available to him then.
Yeah. Like he would get referenced by like getting screen grabs of movies, and he was one of the first to do that to kind of help him compile his reference for his images. He brought one of the first VCRs you could pause and advance frame by frame ever, like that was out, and he paid like a boatload of money. And he was doing this thing where he set up his camera in front of the TV screen and then photograph, the scenes and stuff for reference, which is like people do that all the time now, but back in the day it was like crazy.
Yeah, the fidelity of a VHS tape. I mean,
yeah, I know.
The resolution's just pure garbage.
Oh, he had he had beta. He had beta too.
Even on beta.
Yeah.
So it's like he's taking a very low resolution image and getting just masterfully done drawings out of it.
Yeah. Well, it helps that he could draw too, but
yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's where it comes through, right? It's like he's
totally
so good at drawing that he can make all that stuff come to life.
But he had never heard of a podcast. It's just what basically my point is. And he would, he swore a lot. So he was like, what the F is a podcast? And I'm like, you interested in doing one? He's like, what is that? I've heard this. And what is it? And I'm like, oh, it's like radio show that's on demand, And he's like, well, where does it exist? In the effing cloud, And I'm like, yeah, it does. Essentially does. It's like,
at least he knows where the cloud is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey.
So, yeah.
Listen, we got a question.
Okay.
All right.
Kay Hepburn, we can get back on David. I digress. Hey, you two, technical question for working on an illustration deadline. Is alla prima painting generally recommended? Does glazing just take too long?
I mean, they both got to dry, so.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what you're glazing with, right? So there's so many. Well, there's many techniques that you can kind of. It doesn't have to be in oils, You could glaze with acrylics. You can glaze with gouache. That's actually what David would do. He would glaze with acrylics over a gouache underpainting. Actually, that lift out that you if you've ever seen some of our old episodes from season 1, the gouache lift out. I got that by looking at David Grove and Thomas Blackshear, who was imitating David Grove's technique. And so, and once I would take that, then glaze down with acrylics. I could just glaze right now. With oils, you can have like a fast drying medium to do that, but like liquid or something like that. But it all depends on the deadline too, right? I mean, yeah, it's not an either or thing. It doesn't have to be. You could do both of them,
Yeah, and it all comes down to the way you paint too, right? Like I tend to paint in sections alla prima, but then I let that dry, and then I oil back in, and then paint another section alla prima. And then once I've gotten all my areas that are all pretty wet, and I've let them all dry, then I'll start making adjustments with glazes. So it really depends on the way you want to make marks.
Right.
That you know, it's hard to dictate what's better. I wouldn't say there's either's better. They both have advantages.
Yeah, and you don't have to choose, which is great.
And we definitely
know,
don't have to choose for you. You got to choose for you.
Yeah, you got to choose. Well, we'll choose for you. Actually, Kate
sure.
will choose for you.
Yeah, Kate will pick it.
Yeah, I say do a little bit of both.
There you go. All right.
Best of both
You heard it
worlds.
first. So see, I'm glazing right here. I just take a little bit of matte medium and I'm throwing a glaze over this painting.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
I found glazing with acrylic was so much more satisfying. 'Cause, you know, when you glaze in oils, you're like, okay, done for the day.
There goes my you know. So okay, I got Studio White says but weren't they imitating Bernie Fuchs and Mark English with the lift out technique? Yes. However, he's talking about David Grove and the gouache lift out.
Yeah.
Sort of. Yes, they were imitating Bernie Fuchs in his oil, but David loved Bernie Fuchs. He was one of his favorite artists ever, and you could see the influence on it, but didn't had learned how to basically lift out gouache from this Canadian artist who was doing kind of this kind of washy thing that kind of mimicked oils. So yeah, totally. And Thomas Blackshear trained with Mark English, so there's a lot of influence in that. But you know, Bernie Fuchs and Mark English, that lift out that just came from traditional oil painting. Like, I mean, it just came from throwing down a wash of something and lifting it out with a rag. And Mark English figured out how to do it with a kneaded eraser, and Bernie Fuchs learned how to do it, you know, and turned it into like a style, you know. So, you know, it all comes from something, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, it's like everyone's building on everyone else. You know, it's
yeah.
It was like Bernie Wrightson kind of learned his style of inking from what's his name?
Franklin Booth.
Yeah, Franklin Booth, and they both kind of learned from someone older, right? Who was doing woodcuts, but they were unaware.
Yeah, so Franklin Booth, didn't know. He saw it was like, sweet, woodcuts. I want to learn how to ink like that. And he didn't know that there were woodcuts, so he would imitate them, and found out later that they were woodcuts.
Yeah, so they both in their like inking style have that like negative space heavy mark making, I guess would be the best way to describe it, because they're like trying to create a woodcut. I don't know. I just like that everyone's sort of built on top of other influences and other solutions.
Yeah,
you know,
totally.
Struzan built on top of Richard Amsel and etc.
Right, and you know, like, I mean, look at what we're doing. Like, we're not doing anything revolutionary in terms of like our approach, in a sense. You know, like, I'm taking a study that I had done in acrylics and Prismacolor pencil that was monochromatic, and I scanned it in, and I am painting over on top of it, but it's basically just painting on top of an underpainting, a monochromatic underpainting that was done kind of like almost like in black and white. It's nothing crazy, and you're literally had done the same thing to build it up. You worked your values first, and then you glazed in your colors. You know, we're just using different tools to solve the same visual problems. You know.
Yeah, totally.
So that's the great thing about, like, when you're looking at technique, and this is something our teacher Bill Mon said, was, you know,
God, I'm so glad we have that.
So Bill would say, you know, he would show us a technique. He says, don't copy. I don't want you to. I'm showing you this, not that you copy me, but so that you can see the solutions to a visual problem, and you have to understand why you're doing something. you should always understand why you're using a certain technique for a certain thing, because then once you do, you're able to then take techniques and mix and match them to your own liking, and that's literally what I'm doing here.
Yeah. I'm glad
you come up
brought
with your
this
own
up.
thing.
I'm glad you brought this up because it's so easy to just tell someone like, yeah, do this, do that.
Yeah.
And they'll do it, right? But if you don't tell them why you're doing it, or the whole reasoning behind it, or the mechanics of the medium you're working with, like all of that stuff is going to help them better understand what they're doing and help them better figure out how to do different things with different mediums. It's just it's such better education to tell people why things work the way they do instead of just saying this is how you have to do it.
Right. And I think that was one of the advantages of our training, was we were required to answer that question. I didn't know that until, we studied at the academy with Bill Mon, and
God, I hope he knows about this.
Yeah, I hope he knows. And so, I just thought like, okay, that's the, a technique was a technique, and that's what you did. And they were, unique to themselves, and they were completely, unique, and they had no similarities, but now that we know the reasons why, we can deconstruct technique and, an artist's technique, and then kind of reconfigure it to our own liking.
Yeah, because you see what they're doing and why they're doing it, and then so you understand like the inner workings of image creation. It's so much more, and then they can start making their own decisions based on that knowledge. It's a lot easier.
And so
I think I received. Remember, like in art school, I'd contacted some artist who will remain unnamed.
Yeah. Oh my God. I totally forgot about that. Oh.
Yeah, and I was asking a question about their particular technique and something they were using, and instead of getting a like, well, you should do it, like try this and use like these particular, if you use these mediums, they're going to behave this way because of this and that. Instead of saying that, all I got was a response of, you need to learn your mediums, or like you need to learn the chemistry of your mediums. Like that was it. And it's like, okay, well, that's why I'm asking.
They yelled at you.
It was so weird.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry to interrupt because I love it when you guys dunk on people, but I have 3 questions in the queue. We got to get to them. Okay.
Right.
So a follow-up from Kay Hepburn. So you guys, Tyler, your mic is too low. Tyler, please speak directly in your microphone. Generally paint alla prima in sections over a, oh boy, grisaille underpainting? Grisaille. Damn it. One of them was French and one of them was Italian. I don't even know.
Do you want to answer this?
Yeah. So okay. So the answer is sometimes. For me, I like to paint usually with an underpainting of some sort. It doesn't have to be a grisaille, which is an underpainting in grays. It could just be a lift out with any dark color, as long as it serves a purpose. I like to establish my values first. I think it's helpful. Though there are times where I've just started on like a tone middle gray surface with a drawing drawn out and just kind of went alla prima, and which basically just means full color directly. Kind of what I'm doing actually right here. I'm just directly painting with color. It all depends on the piece, because and whatever's easiest for me. So if I find, and this is the thing that we learned in school, it's like if you have a lot of drawing that you have to kind of get done, and you're kind of worrying about, you don't want to have to worry about color, well, just do the painting and the values first, and then add the color later.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't mind, if you have something easy like a landscape or something, where the drawing, you don't really have a lot of drawing to do, or something simple, then you can go full color. So it all depends. And again, the great thing about it is you don't have to choose one or the other. You could do whatever you want, and that's the great thing.
Do what you
know,
want to do.
do what you
You
want to
can
do.
do what you want to do.
Nice.
Thank you. Hey,
Yeah,
Thank
next
you,
question.
thank you.
Well, just to add to that,
Oh my God.
no questions, please. Um, just to add to that, if I'm really worried about maintaining my drawing, then I will have a really tight drawing underneath.
Right. Yeah.
So I'll paint alla prima over that, but if I'm really worried about like it's really tight and technical, then I'll make a really tight drawing and have it under there, and then I'll kind of glaze in values where I want there, and then I'll kind of paint loose elsewhere. So it's definitely a big combo. There's no like strict rule on how to do it.
Yeah. Thanks for clarifying that. Yeah, I do the same exact thing. Like, because I don't know. I know there's some artists. You and I work on deadlines all the time, so like this is the fastest way we kind of know how to do it. And sure, we can start off with like a loose drawing and then kind of paint tightly, but it's going to take a long time,
I think that's the answer to a lot of these problems is, when someone says you have to paint it this way, most of the time the illustrator in me is like, yeah, but what about the deadline? So I'm always looking for a solution to get it done quicker.
Most of the time the illustrator in me is like, nah, bruh. Do I though?
Okay, now to questions. Now we'll
sorry,
open it
sorry,
up to
Thank
questions.
you. Okay, so this comes from Studio White. Question for both of you. The reality of art is many artists have a shelf life. What are your strategies to keep your careers fresh and relevant for years to come?
Oh man, yeah, I see. I know this shelf life idea too. I tend to attribute that often to like an artist maybe has a very 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 specific style or process, and they stick with that style and process their whole career, and so but as a result they end up looking somewhat dated when like the style of a particular brand or just the style of painting shifts. And they don't shift with it. That I think is where the shelf life thing comes in. And I like classic looks as much as anyone else, but I don't necessarily have a solution for it for myself, but just from the way that I work, I tend to start a piece differently every single time. And I don't know, it might make, and Ray and I have been trained on various different ways to paint. So it might just make it so that certain artists, and maybe we're included in that, I don't know if we are able to pivot pretty quick into different styles as the times change. And some artists might not be because they have such a specific process that they aren't willing to compromise changing.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. It's being able to evolve, right? I mean, you have and be able to evolve your own. I remember Bill used to say, like, every so often you would have to change your style or something.
Mm-hmm.
And that used to stress me out because I'm like, well, I don't even have one to begin with, man. You want me to go? I got to think about changing it,
I'm trying to learn how to make one.
So, but now, we would ask him how, and he's like, well, you experiment. And he showed us how to experiment, which is what we were talking about before, understanding the why behind something. But, it turns out, I think it's just, at least for me, I get bored so quickly, and I never like to be complacent about my process, the way something looks. So I'm constantly pushing myself to get better at painting and kind of follow my need to, or my interest, but I do it in a very tactical, strategic way, like, because just like, illustration, in gallery painting, you can't just like up and change your style and be like, hey, all right, this is the way I paint now.
Yeah, it's really hard to do.
Yeah, especially if you're successful and established. But if you slowly but surely evolve it, I think that leaves you room to to grow and to allow people to accept that change. At least so far, that's been the case with me. But we'll see. I also look at other illustrators like Mark English, and you know, talk to. I'm fortunate enough to be associated with. Have talked to like John English, his son, and people like George Pratt and um, Chris Payne, and people who like can innovate. And those types of illustrators, they're constantly, like John Foster. I remember they're constantly doing artwork, and trying different things, and so uh, I think just I think it's just a natural evolution. I think if you're curious, if you're constantly making sure that you're entertaining that curiosity. Um, but yeah.
I mean, this is I 100% agree, and it's actually the reason why I've like recently switched back into working in oils again, because I felt like I was getting pretty complacent with the digital work I was doing for a long time. So it was, in a lot of ways, it was like I want to challenge myself a little more, and maybe in that challenge and in that exploration, I will learn a little bit more stuff that again makes me more agile in image creation. So it's almost like, I don't know, what would you equate it to? Like, oh, I'm going to go exercise in this different way that I've never tried before.
Yeah. I think it goes back to what Bill would tell us, what his teacher, Bob Heindel, would say, like, which is like you try and entertain yourself, and once you're done entertaining yourself, by experimenting, you kind of figure out how to then get people to buy what you're doing, and or find patrons for that, and or an audience, I should say.
Well,
And
that was a big part of my fear too. Was I do a lot of my work for magic, so I was like, I'm going to switch to oils. Is this going to be like, whoa, what the heck are you delivering to us?
right.
So I did have to focus really hard on making the oil paintings look as close to how I normally work as possible, even though I can see that they're hugely different to me. But the at least the art directors over there seem to think like, oh yeah, this is looks pretty much just like how you normally work. So
and would you agree, like, shelf life also happens to artists who never move out of the industry that they're in before their style goes is people move on from their approach and their style?
Yeah, I think so.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Like Mark English is a classic example. Like, the guy was probably, just as, if not more successful as, as a gallery painter than he was an illustrator.
Mm-hmm.
And, um, he was at his peak when he passed away, and that's saying something,
Yeah.
But that dude was always doing different things, and, Bernie Fuchs is same way. And, there's a billion other artists, but it's not easy though. It's not easy. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're selling paintings for like, you're in a blue chip gallery selling paintings for over $100,000 or something like that, and have a waiting list of like 5 years. And and you're like, it's hard to say, well, I'm a little bored of my style, right? It's
Well, that's
like,
and it's also that I think everyone has their own anxieties, and that's
right.
I think that's something that keeps a lot of people from making those big, dangerous jumps, right? Because they're worried
Yeah.
about paying the bills. And if you have a good thing, why would you compromise it?
You know what Robert Hunt did? He fell into the same thing, and he was like, oh, I am I'm just getting bored, and I know I'm getting complacent, and art directors are asking for the same thing because I keep doing the same thing, I want to break out. He literally made up another name, built a website, under a fake name and started posting different art.
Amazing. Wow.
And he got jobs. Isn't that crazy?
What was this name?
It
Or
was
maybe it's top
like,
secret.
no, it was something ridiculous. Like, dude, come on. Like,
a,
it's
like a legit stage name.
it was like Dirk Daring or something like that. Or, like something extreme. Like that's freaking from, what's it called? Dragon Quest, but I forgot what it was, but it was like ridiculous.
Well,
So
damn. I mean, yeah. I mean,
well,
if that's what gets you there, shit, do it.
but yeah.
But I mean,
Do we have any other questions?
That's
a great question.
Super solid question, and it's a weird thing that I often worry about. But I don't know. I think the best way to avoid it is to stay as agile as you can.
I think you guys are going to be fine. Hey, Jacob A. Sweet. Ray, have you ever seen James Jean's acrylic covers for the Fables series?
Oh, yeah.
Since we were talking about comic artists, I feel he got to have complete freedom in his expression and techniques while working on those covers, which carried into his fine art pieces.
Yeah, that's yeah. Those covers are sick. He was, yeah, I agree. He came in at the right time. Like it was like a right time, right place with James Jean and comic covers at the time. They were looking for, the painted covers were, it was, you have people that were just cover artists, like, and I don't know if that's still the case nowadays, but there were people that were like Adam Hughes, that were just doing covers. That's who was Tim Bradstreet. Alex Ross did covers forever for a while. He still does, but yeah. So James Jean's Fables work was crazy because, and it was constantly changed. The story was perfect for his type of style, and I absolutely love his stuff. And yeah, it was just like the perfect melding of things. But he's man, that guy's he's something else. He's like a legend.
Yeah. I like when an art director takes a chance like that, though.
Yeah, and also there was just the industry wanted it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it was perfect. It was perfect timing because he wouldn't be able to get away with that in like a studio job.
Yeah, no way.
It's like, no, you need to draw like this because we have a house style. So yeah, I totally think it. Yeah, I totally agree with the fact that it fed into his fine art stuff, and now he's just, what isn't he doing? Working with like Versace and like, it's just like doing limited edition prints and painting, and he's just kind of like an artist, period, with a capital A.
Beast, do we call them? Hey, Tyler from K Heparin. So Tyler, why the switch to oils when your clients are fine with digital illustrations? Do you miss the aroma of oils?
There's a lot of. I mean, I don't know if I miss the aroma.
He had an influx of brain cells, so he.
Yeah, I wanted to get rid of him. I miss making an artifact. I miss the challenge of making an actual oil painting, and there's a an aspect in there's a non-zero amount of my brain that wanted to get into the collector's market. So there's a lot of people who collect magic originals. So I wanted to jump in on there too and see how I could do. So it was a lot of things, but I'm really happy that I'm making physical paintings again. That was something I missed, I think, the most when I switched over to digital.
What's funny is the fact that like you're not known for your oil paintings yet.
Yeah.
Right? Well, isn't that crazy?
I'm hoping I can be, but it's
yeah. You totally will be, but yeah, but it's like, wow, how the hell did that happen? Right? It's like, because that's all you did. That's all we did in school. Like I just, and to think that like, yeah, it's wild.
I switched so fast. I mean, think I probably could count all the oil paintings I did for jobs on maybe one hand. And then I switched to digital. Maybe two hands. I mean, there might have been 7 or 8 images, and then I switched.
How many fingers can you have in two hands?
Let's see, how many has this guy got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 or 7.
Count them on 1.3 alien hands or 2.2 human hands.
So yeah, it was yeah, it was weird. It was weird. It was all I trained for. I mean, honestly, when I went over to digital and I did like my first digital piece for D&D.
It's a D&D, right?
I was like,
I remember that.
I might have messaged you. I was like, dude, I didn't have to clean up any paint. I could leave the image whenever I wanted.
I know.
It was it was such a game changer for me. But now I've learned all of that stuff, and I'm ready to go back to try to make physical paintings again. And I've done a few. A long way to go.
Yeah, well, you're catching up pretty quickly.
I'm constantly running into roadblocks that are it's a big learning process, but it's scary, and I encourage everyone though to try it out. Switch mediums, see how you feel. You learn a lot in the process.
Yeah, it's interesting how people come to your work. I was just thinking about this the other day. Like I just signed on with an illustration rep in Chicago.
Yeah, you were talking about this before the stream.
Yeah, and so like the guy who really nice guy. John Rush is actually had recommended me, and so he had said, have you ever done illustration? And it was just sort of like, and I just had a moment. I was like, what? Duh, yeah. But I thought, wait a second, like most people don't even know I was an illustrator for like 10 years, and so it's like, it's crazy how people come to, to your work, and when they come to it, or how quickly things change. I mean, because like, I was never known for at being a gallery painter,
Right. And
that's for sure.
That's like most of what you do now. I mean,
yeah,
you
that's
teach.
Fairly recent,
Hey, from Studio White. Hey, Tyler, do you find that the aftermarket for original art has been a way to bolster your income? Have you considered creating other products as well?
I don't know if it's bolstered. It's allowed me to.
I love that word, by the way.
Bolstered?
Yeah.
It's a good word.
You should have an emote.
It is what has it allowed me to do? I would say it's allowed me to work at a different pace. I think I was pretty breakneck speed for quite a while with working digitally. So the back end sale of those paintings, I guess, has allowed me to spend a little more, like almost like I wouldn't say slower pace, but just like a more relaxed pace when it comes to production art that I've been doing. And it's also opened up like some different avenues of like most of the time I'm doing, except for this month, but most of the time I'm doing a couple days out of the week doing visual development for Wizards of the Coast. So I can be a little more relaxed with like working on a single, like 1 or 2 oil paintings at once for the card set, and then I can also do concept art at the same time. So it's just changed the scenery a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think also I think we're using this show to do stuff we, want to do too, right?
Yeah, I mean, when we started doing this show was when I was pretty much getting back into doing oil. So I was like, this is a great way for Ray and I to chat and share our experience and knowledge, and I can get in more practice with oil paints. I'm working digitally, of course, right now. Yes.
From Aaron Rufino.
Aaron.
Okay, so James Jean's different ventures seem to boost his fine art sales, but is there a concern that merchandising or selling products diminishes the value of quote unquote fine art? Or is that an elitist or outdated way of thinking?
Interesting.
You know, my answer to that is you do you, Let other people worry about that.
Get
You do
paid, baby.
you. Yeah. Just don't worry about that. Yeah, I think it's a pretty all right. So this is my opinion, of course, so take it with, a C-130 filled with salt, right? But I think that's a really privileged. I've ran across that attitude, and I think it's a really, really privileged attitude. It's if you can make a living and make a good living being an artist, go for it. And if you're happy, that's all that matters.
Yeah,
And so
I don't
yeah,
know what the concept of or the value of. No, I'd say the concept of like fine art is. I don't know what it is.
well,
Right.
because it's just it. Yeah, I think it's also like I get what Aaron is saying. It's just like being too commercial, but like the fine art world is so commercial. It's so filled with the. It's so capitalistic in its nature. It's incredible that that attitude kind of comes from there because
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
the biggest. It's just like the biggest irony in the world. Um,
Yeah,
so
I'm coming from also like there's that, right? And then there's my perspective of like all the great artists that are in museums, like the Renaissance artists. Like those dudes are illustrators. So I'm like coming from
yeah,
like they were illustrating for the big magazine at the time, which was the church. So
right.
and that's in museums, so that's fine art.
New
So I
issues
just
every
don't
Sunday.
yeah, I just don't see it's all just art to me. I mean, eventually the art that illustrators make now will what be considered fine art in museums.
Yeah.
It's there's just I don't know. It's hard to find the line.
You know what? Who cares? It's
Yeah, and who
2021.
cares?
Who cares?
Hey, Evaquate is a question.
What's up, Evercade?
Obviously, Tyler gets a ton of direction in his projects, but Ray, do you get specific requests or themes for your gallery shows?
So sometimes I will be in a group show where there is a general theme, and so that will guide my work. But usually I'm picked for that show because of the work that I do already. So that's probably around all the direction I get. But in terms of other direction, they're galleries, gallery owners. They're again, it's a for-profit business, right? So they want to sell more of your paintings, and so let's just say you had a bunch of paintings that had apples in them, and all of them sold. They're going to think people like those apples, man. Keep painting those apples.
How
So they're
about
going to
them
say,
apples?
how about the apples? I built that in, not even knowing. Can you believe that? That's how good I've
That's so
gotten.
good. You've become
I've gotten too good for
too
myself.
good.
You guys finally have some synergy. Hold on, I have something for this.
So yeah, so you can get that from time to time for sure. You got to navigate it, and also private commissions for sure. Tons of feedback, and whenever you're working for a client, you're gonna get that,
Yeah, I mean,
which I don't
most of
mind.
the stuff I do, I'm working off a brief from written by writers that work for a company. So it's
Yeah,
they're
you're
handing me
doing
the
art for someone.
ideas, yeah, and then I'm solving the I'm trying to solve it for them, and just it's a weird beast, but it's
Well,
usually I mean, I wouldn't say it's any really like majorly different one end or the other.
No.
Hey, question from Victor Farrow.
Hey, Vic.
Ray, did you choose gallery work so you do you, or was the decision influenced in part by the expectations in academia of being an art instructor?
The expectations. I chose fine art because the type of illustration that I wanted to do didn't really exist to the extent that I was able to basically support myself. So I realized that like I wanted to do a lot of illustration that was figurative, that had nuanced narrative, and that would have shown up in like editorial stuff or like in magazines, but that type of work really isn't around anymore. And so,
Hold on,
but
Ray.
a lot of
Ray,
that
keep
stuff,
going. I'll be right back.
yeah, a lot of that stuff does exist. However, that space exists in galleries now, and so that's the reason why I had decided to go into fine art. It was just because that's where the draw of my work is, and it's a great question because you have to, you have your work. It's important to study, get good fundamentals, and push your work, and really find out the type of person you are, what your likes are, what your dislikes are, and once you have that, you have your work, which is always evolving, by the way. But the next step is to find your audience, to find the people that enjoy that work. It's not as easy as saying good work is good work, and so everything's going to sell. People, in the industry, people have needs, right? And so if your work doesn't fit those needs, then as much as they like the work, they can't use it for what they want. And so it turned out I was very fortunate in the fact that now galleries these days, like and are starting to sell more and more figurative artwork, work that's representational, and so, but that wasn't the case before. That wasn't the case in the 90s, for sure. That stuff, this type of stuff right here would be considered illustration, easily, so.
Yeah, you're coming from what a time period that was sort of heavily favored more abstract art.
Right. So, that was the big thing. Had nothing to do with teaching. I mean, I got into teaching early because I needed to support myself, and I got lucky that I found a gig out of grad school teaching part-time, that helped, that gave me health insurance, and you can't beat that. And so I still paint. I've only taught part-time, because I paint full-time. And so a lot of my early career was building my illustration career, and so most of my time was built doing that before I transitioned into gallery painting. Hope that answers that question. I don't know if I did.
I mean, I couldn't follow a word you were saying. So. No, that was good. That was good, man.
Do you remember, like, there's this? You ever seen Shooter with Mark Wahlberg?
Yeah. Yes, I have.
Okay, Danny Glover's character, right, had braces.
Yes.
And I couldn't. Was that because Danny Glover had braces, and he refused to take them off when they booked him?
I
like
think
he had these Invisalign, or did the character in the book, which I think it was based off of a book, have braces?
I'm not sure, but what I hope it was that Danny Glover was like, look, man, I'm gonna get braces, and I'm not gonna stop, and we're gonna keep making this.
It's gonna
movie.
be fine. I couldn't understand a single thing he said throughout that entire movie.
No, me either.
And I don't know why that made me think of Shooter, but it did.
I'm glad it did.
Yeah.
You guys thought you could fucking take a right turn into movies, but no. Victor Farrow has another great question for you. Ray or Tyler, do you think realism is ebbing in popularity now and giving way to something else, or is it here to stay?
I mean, it's never gone away, so I don't know if it will go away again.
Nothing's consistent. Everything's evolving, and I think the realism today is giving way to more and more realism that's different. I think there's so much more training now that artists today are working in figurative styles more so, or more inclined to work, or more open to do that. So, because the training's there, that's the thing. Like,
and they kind of move with. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. What were you saying?
Well, I mean, those styles move with, I think, almost like a waveform, right? So it's if Disney really likes heavily stylized stuff, or entertainment really likes heavily stylized stuff for a while, that's kind of where all the artists start training towards, right?
Yeah, and then totally right.
So you get and then when it shifts to like more realistic stuff, then you get a different shift. It's just there's no way to. I think people just go with the market essentially in those scenarios.
Totally.
And it's almost like it's like a delayed reaction, right? You get all this, you get like what looks good and what's popular, and then you get a whole wave of people that trained in that, but they don't arrive until 5-10 years later. And so you get these eras of different styles, and then they shift. I think that's always, from a art history point of view, that's pretty fun to watch.
Yeah. As an artist, it's terrifying.
What do we got? We got some. Oh, whoa! We got a whole bunch of gifts. Definitely Defiant. Thank you. I know who that is. Won't give away their secret name. And we got a question from Definitely Defiant. Let's see. Has Tyler ever gone over his digital grayscale to color process? Yeah, that's something we've talked about quite a bit. I think in the first couple episodes of working on this, we talked a lot about how I start with little thumbnails and then sort of begin to build fidelity in. And then I'll often do a color sketch over that. So I'm kind of working from that right now. This was a little tiny thumbnail a few episodes ago. And then I've blown this up. Or I actually didn't even blow it up first. Last episode, I just threw color over the top of a bunch of different ones. And then from there, I think I can bring them up really quick.
But and you work through, we have all of our, Definitely Defined, we have all of our episodes also on YouTube.
So you can see them right here, man.
So Tyler went through the whole thing of also like just like gradients and gradient maps and you were doing other things like photo filters and things like that, which was really awesome. Yeah. So that was what the result was from last episode. But Tyler did go through all of those. All four, right? I mean, you established all four, so.
Yeah, well, and I think this bottom one was like, I'm just going to do one monochromatic, but kind of sepia tone. But yeah, I mean, it's. I like to try and explore the thumbnails this way. Sometimes I can do it. Sometimes I have the time to do it. Sometimes I don't have the time to do it. And I just have to go right past it. But it's a good way to keep these steps, and it helps you find things that are interesting. Like this first top one was the one I was probably going to go with. But after I was messing around with a bunch of different settings while we were chatting last episode, I was like, oh man, this red one actually is way cooler. So we'll go with that. Hopefully it's not a mistake. We'll see.
It's not, will you stop it? That's why I didn't even want you to look at that, Is Livebrush the name of your YouTube channel too? Yes. Oh, okay. So the chat bot has responded.
Oh, man. I am the chat bot.
You are chat bot.
But we have lots more questions. Hey,
sweet.
From studio, this isn't a question. I just think this is funny. Kepron says, I asked a painting teacher what sells. John Dunn, said, people buy what someone tells them to buy.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, the fine art world, like the heavy duty hitting, like
Yeah,
fine
yeah.
art world in New York. Yeah, those dudes are buying what someone what someone tells them to buy.
Right. Because it's more of like an investment.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's true of everything. Yeah, Evaquate points that out. Studio White asks, question for both. What is your graded group? I love, by the way, Studio White uses caps lock as a person who makes comic books does. Like when you write it all caps, it's like the italic words in a comic book. This is just tickling me a lot. What is your greatest art weakness? And what are you doing to overcome that weakness?
oh, wow.
Jeez, I don't know. I mean, how much time do we have?
Yeah, I'm always struggling with color, so that's
Jesus.
one. That's number one. No, that's not number one, but it's a one. Oh, here's one of my biggest ones, and I'll do it right here. I draw one side heavy. I don't know why. Maybe my brain's messed up. But the way I get around the way I get around it is I have a hotkey to do this. If you're working traditionally, you can do it with a mirror. So when digitally, I'm flipping back and forth like crazy because I am so right side heavy, I think, or maybe left side
really?
heavy. Yeah, so I'll do a drawing. I'll work on it for an hour or so, and then I'll flip it, and it'll look like garbage from, it's because I'm one side heavy, and so I think I'm left side heavy. Like I would draw heavily on this left side, and I'm doing it here. I'm putting more detail in over here than over here. So when I switch it, I'm like, oh, okay, this side looks really unresolved. Why do the values look unresolved? Because I'm drawing one side heavy for some reason. So now I switched it, and I'm going to try and fix that.
I never knew that, Tyler.
It's Jeremy. Jeremy Jarvis said he does it as well. It's just a weird handedness quirk. I'm not sure what it is.
I don't think he does. I think he was just trying to make you feel better.
Trying to make me feel better. Yeah, probably.
JJ.
Your turn,
geez.
Ray.
I think. Oh man, there's so many of them.
No weaknesses. He's gonna say he doesn't have any weaknesses.
There's so many.
His weakness is that he's too good at painting.
I mean, we're talking about when you care too much. I think you leave yourself open to being hurt by people like Tyler.
Expose your weaknesses to me.
Yeah,
I won't hurt you.
I just think that it's kind of like an intangible thing. I think drawing I'm always trying to get better at. I also think that like my paintings, my images lack that it factor that I'm trying to chase. It's like impactful. It's kind of making it feel fresh and complicated and fresh but finished,
That's such a hard balance, man. I understand that struggle.
And trying to get my light to feel really immersive and lived in. I still feel like I just don't get it, So I think drawing, getting that really the solidity. I'm just working on everything, composition, like everything. And I think I think that's the reason why I do these studies is it's like my first stab at my piece to see like, okay, this is what I was thinking. How good was this actually? Like how good were my abilities? And so allowing me to I'm going to really try and finish this study off, like really try hard to finish this off. I'm going to bring in oil paints and go right over this acrylic once I cover it. And that gives me like a benchmark for myself. And then it allows me to gives me hindsight, and so, and that will allow me to go back. So when I go into my 18x36 final, I have the gift of okay, this is what I did wrong, but these are some of the things I did well. And I'll do things as copy a lot of these brush strokes, that might come as an accidental thing for me. So, but but it's even then, like, it's not a guarantee. And so that's um, where I struggle with, I guess. I mean, yeah, everything's a struggle for me.
Well, I think that is it should probably be the case for a lot of artists, if not all artists, is that it is the struggle always. Like it's this.
Yeah.
I always equate it to this. It's a blade edge that you can never sharpen enough. But you're always trying to reach. You always want to keep conscious of trying to reach the perfect sharpest edge. But no matter what you do, you'll never actually get it sharp enough. So
Right.
you
And
just have
all
to
you want to
keep
do is just
sharpening.
cut somebody,
Yeah, and all you want to do is slice something up. But yeah, you're really, really trying to hone all your skills, and I don't know, there's probably not enough time in a human lifespan to actually hone them all perfectly. But it's this never-ending attempt to do so.
That's why we're trying to make time.
Oh my gosh, we have so many questions. This one from Aaron Rufino. Do you ever measure the success of a painting by the response or reaction it gets? Not Instagram likes, but like connecting with a person or audience who appreciates what you do.
Can you read that again? Sorry.
From Aaron Rufino, do you ever measure the success of a painting by the response or the reaction it gets? Not Instagram likes, but like connecting with a person or audience who appreciates what you do.
I don't know if I think a painting's better or more successful than another one because someone really liked it, because everyone has such different tastes. And that, like, this has been magnified for me because of Magic the Gathering, is fans will love a piece and maybe I'll think it's like not my best, but they'll love it because they're coming from a different context. Like their context is they're playing the game and the card is really good in the game or is really personal to their deck, and so they really like it. So I try to keep the context in mind when I think of that. Like it's super context driven. Like they like this piece. It doesn't mean that the piece is better than other pieces or worse than other pieces, but it's really personal to them, and I like that aspect. But I try not to judge the piece success based on that.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. When if people really really like a piece, it's great because you're connecting with them. I fall victim to that a lot of times. It's I think Tyler and I share this whole thing. Like the once we're done with the piece, we just really hate it, and so like it's like, okay, is it successful? Do people like it? That's great. If somebody buys it, that's awesome. But it makes you feel better, that's for sure. I just think it's a balance. Like you can't hinge everything on it. And you do artwork to connect with people. At least I do. That's part of I should say, when you do artwork, connecting with people is part of the process. At least for me, it is, right? And so
it's made to be viewed. So
right, it's made to be viewed, right? So we're not making it in a vacuum, And so when you connect with somebody, that's really incredible. I just take it as its own thing, and I really take time out to appreciate that. But yeah, I don't know. It's a multi-level thing. It's not like an either or.
Yeah, it's tough. I don't know. I have thought of this, so it's a great question because I have thought of that. I've really tried to check myself over the years to be like,
wait, it's only a great question because you had thought of it.
Yeah. It's
so
it's an amazing question because I've spent time thinking about this.
Because it's a great question, Aaron, because it makes me think about me.
Yeah, it reminds me that I have thought about something. That's why it has value.
That's why it's a great.
So yeah, moving back to the fact that Ray has not seen Krull yet.
Dude, I will see it. You're gonna
Oh, you
make.
guys think you could talk about
Damn.
movies? Absolutely not.
I tried
No.
really quick.
I'm going to skip to a Victor Farrow question real quick because it is an unintended plug for Raymond. But can you talk a little? Victor Farrow wants to know, can you talk a little about the details of your upcoming Painting the Head class and the expectations from session to session for students working in either traditional or digital?
Oh,
Thanks for the plant, Victor.
Yeah, thanks, Vic.
Tell them they're gonna have to work really hard, right?
Yeah, I know. This is, imagine it's like the Iron Man of painting classes. No, so I just agreed to teach another class for visual arts passage, which is a great great online school. You should definitely check it out.
Yeah.
There's they do a free drawing session where a lot of the instructors and other artists, visiting artists, and all viewers too, all draw together using the same reference. It's called Illustration Isolation. You should check it out. It's every Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it's incredible. Tyler's been on there. I've been on there.
I keep forgetting to share the pieces I did on there. I'll have to do that.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So, but I'm teaching a head painting class called from. I think it's head painting from paint to pixel, and basically, it's a traditional painting class that talks about. It's actually does what we talk about here, where we take a process, deconstruct a process, and then apply it in different with different approaches. And so, you don't have to. It centers a lot around light and color, which is something I really like to talk about, and paint quality, and we get into that, and how to control basically value and to represent, and color to represent form, but mostly value. So we do it mostly traditional, in acrylics or oils, or anything opaque is what we work on. And then the last piece is we work on we do a half digital, half traditional painting, and you could work traditional then go to digital, or digital then go to traditional. And the whole point of it is to show you that it really just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you do. It's how you it's how you step. It's just a matter of how you solve those problems, what steps you take, or what technique, what mediums you use to solve a given problem, because the problems are still the same regardless of the medium.
Are you trying to say that working digitally is not cheating?
No. It's definitely not cheating. It's definitely a travesty, to even call it. Because to say it's cheating means that you're trying to cheat at making art, and it's just not art. That's the problem.
Okay. Yeah.
That's just, yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Raymond is joking.
Yes,
hey,
I'm
question.
very much joking.
Oh, yeah, we gotta have a joke sound.
Question for I got one. Oh, do I? That's pretty good. Question for Tyler from Sapphire Harp. What pixel size are those thumbnails that you're working?
Oh, I don't know. I wasn't worrying about the pixel size. I was just making sure that they were small on my screen.
So Tyler basically said, "What?" He was like, "Tyler, do you have your homework? What?"
Like, here's the cool thing I can do with digital is I can do this, and now it's really small, and I can work with big huge strokes. But I don't know. Yeah, I never really count the pixel size. I think I was working on like an 8.5 by 11 inch file at 300 DPI, because that's usually just the default file I have ready to open. So, yeah. Sorry, I don't have a great answer for that.
I thought that was a great answer. Hey, from Kepron.
Nice.
Are concept and composition the most important things?
Wow.
In the world?
In the world.
No, I mean,
Ray, what do you got? This is a tough one.
Well, I mean, it's a hierarchy, right? But if you could have beautiful, they're really important. I would say it's part of. They're definitely part of the complete package. I think like nothing ruins um, good pieces of artwork. Good ideas like bad composition, and also if you have a bad idea, it's usually what factors into the composition too. So it's uh, one thing that I remember Greg Manchus was saying this. We were talking about this actually at David Grove's thing. I don't even know what to call it. It was like a celebration of life. That's what it was. Um, where Greg was like, we were talking about training. I don't know if you remember this, Tyler. We were talking about training and about how like it's fun, the importance of fundamentals, and how it trains in the importance of understanding the fundamentals of being a visual communicator allows you to be a better visual communicator, and there in as a result, like the better your understanding of drawing, composition, color, all of these fundamentals, the better idea person you're going to be, right? Because you're going to be able to think visually better,
Yeah,
more
it's like,
eloquent,
yeah, it's like if you have shorthands for everything, you can more effectively communicate those ideas. I mean, it's like the better you know first principles in engineering, the more innovative you're going to be, like making a car or a rocket or it's yeah, you start thinking in those terms because it becomes part of your lexicon.
So composition and ideas, like having a good concept is super key, right? Because if people come to you for the way you're able to put together visual ideas, and composition is how you lay out that concept, and it's part of you expressing that idea. But you need the other supporting elements, right? Like you can have a great composition. The picture, at the end of the day, whatever you do, the picture has to satisfy the needs of the viewer. And
Yeah.
whoever the primary view is if it's the art director, if it's the art viewer, then they'll have to satisfy it. And so, you know, uh, the rest of the fundamental formal elements have to come into play to help support that.
Yeah, and it's all contextual. I mean, right? Like if you're
Yeah.
if you're trying to make like an impactful piece of art, then composition's king, right? Doesn't even
Yeah.
matter what your subject matter is. But if you're like
Right.
doing medical illustrations, your composition's not necessarily the king there. It's the content, it's the details, it's the brief. So again, I guess we're always saying like everything's relative.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
it is contextual to the job you're doing it for. But I mean, Ray and I both love really great art, so I think composition's always king for us, and less
Yeah.
content.
Yeah. And like I think it's like the stuff I like the stuff that really draws me is not the stuff that like is images that are really arrest me. Like I could really be drawn to a painting of like an avocado if it's painted in such a way that is meaningful. And this is where we're going to start to get into like Zen like stuff here, and it becomes really abstract. But there's a difference. Like if somebody, it's like if
Hold on,
they're
Ray.
painting
I'll
an
be right
apple.
back. I'll be
Okay,
right
no
back,
problem.
Ray.
We're painting an apple, right? Like if John Singer Sargent, uh, me and myself both painted an apple, and somebody took a photo of an apple, just a regular old photo using a cell phone, then and laid them out, you'd probably think that the painting of the apple that John Singer Sargent did was a lot better, a lot more impactful, and it's just kind of as visual artists, I think our goal is to kind of connect with the viewer on, kind of another level, beyond, like, it's almost like a spiritual level in a sense, because you're controlling an emotional response, and so it's, that stuff is difficult, to say the least. But um, I think you need to have all of the more eloquent you are in the visual language, the more you're able to control and cater those things. And the reason why I'm kind of like no worries, talking around this is because, like, I don't want you to think that, like, oh, if you draw realistic, then it's great. That's it. That's the upper echelon. Not true. Like, it's, like, I would take Mike Mignola's drawing of an apple over a photorealistic drawing of an apple any day. It's like,
Yeah.
or it's just, it depends on what the artist is.
I mean,
Linedecker,
isn't this? Aren't we sort of focusing in on style is king at this point?
Yeah, I think it's I like to say, like, intent.
Sure.
Um, I think it's much more than like a technique. If that makes any sense. I don't know. Like, I'm not doing anything. It's like, why does, like, an Andrew Wyeth painting or like a Sargent painting grab you if we're using the same, if there are other painters that use the same technique, right? It's like, what is it about that piece? That's a hard question, man.
But that's what I think. That's why it's great. We don't have an answer. Great question.
I don't know, right? What?
I don't know. Thanks for tuning in.
Let's see. I was just gonna say, yeah, Aaron took my head painting class and did
cool.
some incredible work. I gotta send you Aaron's.
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to see it.
Monochromatic painting. It was like awesome. So yeah, thanks for answering that question, Aaron, about the class. Let's see.
Didn't you want to talk about something else? Just to drop it in the chat.
Yeah. So I'm in terms of like classes, I am teaching like a class at this place called Smart School, called Impactful Color and Light, and it's popped up every so often on the MooBot. So we have a link and everything like that to it. But and then also something that I just started to offer are just one-on-one, basically like tutoring sessions, I guess, so where I work with an artist for like an hour or however long they want, and we work on their work, and we kind of customize a class or a direction of study for them. I just started with my first student. It's been going well. It's really nice,
Reminds me kind of like the directed studies that we did when we were in art school.
Yeah, it's exactly like that. Yeah. It's kind of like where you meet with the person, decide what you want to work on, and then go ahead working on them. And we meet in Zoom, and we, what I do for a lot of my classes, for all of my classes actually, is I paint on top digitally on top of people's artwork or draw on top of them to show how to make corrections and how to make improvements or to understand, to explain concepts. I paint, do demos just like we're doing right here, and so on and so forth. So
I think that's the best way for feedback, to be honest. I mean, like from getting feedback from art directors that I work with, they usually don't have the time to do a paint over, but we're artists, we work visually, we speak visually. So it's often way easier to learn how to correct something when someone just does it physically over your work. It's just super advantageous.
And then the advantage of doing it digitally is that you you have it hasn't damaged the piece. You could just do it on a separate layer, so you can see the difference, and you can flip back and forth in between that. And I think that's pretty powerful. And the way I paint digitally is it looks like oil painting. So I'm able to kind of, it's really relevant. I'm not like, as much as I would like to, I'm not throwing like lens flare filters.
Oh, dude, yeah, I should do that right now.
Yes.
I haven't
Throw
even
that
done
lens
it.
flare on there.
Hey,
Give me a
lens flare.
Ray, how, if people wanted to take advantage of this one-on-one painting opportunity with you, how would they get in touch with you?
So you could shoot me an email. My email is ray@raymondbonilla.com. If you wanted any more details on it. Thanks for bringing that up, Kate.
There we go.
You're great.
You bet,
Ray.
bud.
What do you think?
Ooh. Now
That's
it
a
looks
tro-
like
yeah,
now it looks like a J.J. Abrams movie
Yeah.
poster.
There it
Oh.
is.
Hold on.
Oh my God.
Hold on. I think I can get
Can
a
you-
real
yeah,
J.J.
put-
Abrams
put-
one in there.
Put the type. Can we get some type on that?
Oh, there we go.
That
There
just
we go.
at the bottom or at the very top that says this
That.
summer.
Look at that. Those show up.
This summer.
That's a dick flare.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah. So, never use this tool. Well, I mean,
What?
you can.
I use this tool.
You know, I was Ray just sent me a video. Sorry, this sidebar. Ray just sent me a video of Drew Struzan working on the Phantom Menace poster, and he has this.
Yeah,
like,
Homeboy was doing lens flares.
he was doing lens
He
flares
was
all
doing
over
lens
it.
flares.
But he was using stencils, and then he was
Doesn't matter.
airbrushing in. It was perfect.
No.
It was amazing. So
It
I didn't
doesn't
have
matter.
to. I saved so much time.
Yeah,
I didn't waste my
yeah.
time like Struzan was doing. I just put in a lens flare.
Here's a question from Studio White for both of you.
Oh.
Do you have themes or ideas that you circle back around to time and again, no matter the work you're executing, whether it's commercial or fine art?
Good question. Commercial is a little bit, at least for me, it's a little different. It kind of depends on the assignment. And so like, I guess the theme would be kind of roped into like the style, and like kind of the overall visual impression of it. For my gallery paintings, it's all about biographical, like all these places that or things that I've painted are things that I've spent a lot of time in, or are of places that meant a lot to me, and so so that's sort of like a constant theme. And usually I use light to kind of communicate that sense of me trying to preserve that memory of that time and place or that object.
Yeah. Oh man. Specific
I don't know if that makes sense.
themes. That makes total sense to me.
Oh, then it definitely doesn't
Not
make sense.
to me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And yes, Everquate says Ray sneaks a Waldo into all of his pieces. Everquate, I told you that in confidence.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is not for sharing. I think, I don't know. I mean, if I had a theme at all, it would be like,
It would be, I don't know.
it'd be, I don't know what it is. It's, hey, Adrian, I don't know. It would be
your Sylvester Stallone impressions.
I'm always trying to do better Sylvester Stallone impressions while I'm working by myself.
You could never do it.
Space.
You can never write, direct, and produce your own
No,
stuff.
and I could never be a genius like that. So it is a pipe dream, but you got to have dreams, everybody. I think mine is probably like cinematic instances. That's usually
That's
I'll get
absolutely
an idea.
yours.
Oh, thank you. I'll get an idea from an art director, and I tend to, I'm reading it, and my gut reaction is, okay, how can I make this a lot more cinematic? How can I get a moment that feels like a frame in a film or something?
What about
With an
have you
illustration flavor.
Have you ever thought about how to get it more skinematic?
Oh, Skinamax. If you folks aren't familiar with the great cinematic achievements of a channel called Cinemax. We should do a whole episode about quality filmmaking.
Porn? Oh, sure.
That centers around the late night Cinemax Saturday or Friday nights or whenever it was, and the creations that were made by people. Thousands of people worked on those films.
You've taken this joke too far. Anyway, sorry, you were saying you do a lot of homages to film in your pieces.
Yeah, I was saying, so Cinemax. Yeah, I try. I mean, I would say homage, I guess, or I'm always trying to like make it. I like movies a lot, so I'm always trying to make things feel like they're a frame.
We know. We could see that. We also know. We've also learned you like specific types of movies.
Yeah. Like Saturday nights on premium cable channel type shows.
So Kazimov says in the chat, I remember the scrambled channels. We were just talking about this, Tyler.
Yes, we
how you were like, it was you couldn't, but the audio was perfect, right?
For some reason, they let the audio come through. Must have been a marketing gimmick.
That's incredible.
I mean, should we have a whole episode just dedicated to talking about pornography, or
well, you've taken up about 45% of the show talking about it so far.
How much time do we have left? Shit. What were we talking about?
We were talking about the themes that you rely on, like a real arty,
like a real question.
Like a real question.
Yeah, no. If I had anything that I went back, well, I'd say there's two. I like to try and put in a lot more motion into my work. So you'll often see like a gimmick of me with using like a cape blowing around or something in the wind. It's always, all my images it's really fucking windy wherever this image is being created. It's super windy. So I try and get a lot of motion in, which ends up helping the cinematic feel that I'm going for. So I would say that's my answer.
Question from Lord Adornable. Question for Tyler. What's the size of your canvas right now? And on what size do you work when you work digitally?
Do you work twice up or you work the same size as print?
So I tend to work twice up. So let's say, except for Magic. So Magic's a 2-inch printed card. So my files are not 4 inches. That they're for Magic, I tend to work with the idea that I'm going to have prints down the road. So I work almost like 8 times bigger than the card's going to print.
Okay.
But if it's for like a book cover, yeah, I do the standard double the size. So you can do that in 2 ways. If you're working digitally, you can make a file size that's exactly the size as they want. Let's say it's 9x12. And then you just double the resolution. So, print resolution is 300 DPI. So you just make that 600, or you can double the dimensions. It's up to you, but it's always better to work double the size. Right now I'm working, this digital file is like, 8x10. And it's 300 DPI. So that's just something I randomly picked. I wasn't specific with this because I wasn't sure where it was going to go. If I'm working on a Magic card, I have a saved file on my computer that is whatever the art frame template. And that tends to be kind of roughly 11x17, but then I do that at 600 DPI. So it's enormous. It's an enormous image. Doesn't need to be that big, but I'm just doing it because I know down the line I'm going to make really big prints.
That's super important.
Great question. Yeah.
Yeah.
Be aware, especially if you're working digitally, be aware of your file sizes because, Photoshop will max out at 2, for a Photoshop file, PSD, it'll max out at 2 gigabytes. So
right.
If you want to work bigger than that, you have to work as a PSB, and then I think it's infinite. But man, I've had to work on files that big for like mural projects that get close to that 2 gigabyte I think I did a big, huge mural for that Black Jesus project. And I had to do it in 2 files because they needed all the characters on their own layers.
Oh my God.
So I had an almost 2 gig left side and an almost 2 gig right side. And then at the end, I pieced the 2 together as one file after I flattened it.
You're kidding me.
Yeah, because it was just huge. It was an enormous image because it needed to be on a billboard. But so yeah, just be aware of that. You're gonna hit some sticky stuff when you start getting really big. I don't work with a ton of layers, so it's never really been a huge problem. But it can get, if you're a type of artist that works digitally with tons and tons and tons of adjustment layers, and you're gonna hit your limit pretty quick.
So why? Look, Nick DeLuca 96. I just saw this. Hey Nick, is the reason you double the size so that your values get more compressed when it shrunk down?
I never thought of it that way. That's great.
Well, I think it definitely tightens up. You
yeah.
know. So that's why. I mean, that's why I would work double the size, or I work larger than the printed thing because you can fit more information in there for sure.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was coming from with it. Where I don't know who told us this, and one of my art teachers told us
it was
this.
I don't know. It might be Bill Mon.
You know, I was coming from this idea that, and Bill was obviously coming from this too, is that it's far worse to have your image blown up to size than it is to shrink it down to a size.
Right.
So I'm always coming from that. Make it way, way bigger than what they need, or double what they need, so that they never have to make it bigger than what they need. They can always shrink it down to fit what they need. And then your resolution never gets pixelated and blown out and destroyed.
Right.
It's always compressed down, and that's so much better than blowing something up beyond its resolution. You know, it would be like taking, you know, if you've seen those original Magic cards, they were painted at like 4 inches. They weren't painting them very big. So if you took one of those and tried to blow it up to a poster size, I mean, all you're getting is canvas grain essentially at that point. We got 3 minutes, everybody. 3 minutes.
We have 3 minutes. All right.
Sorry, it was the end of the gong. Apologize. Yeah, you guys have 2 minutes actually. So wrap it up, boys. Let's hear that outro. I know you've been practicing.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Ray's been working on a song that he will sing as we leave the show. The improv community, that's called pimping.
That is not true, everyone. Okay.
The theme song, though, our original composition by Ray Bonilla, is the theme song to our intro and outro. So
yep.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you had
suck it, Tyler.
Yeah, suck it, Tyler. I'm just tired of making incredible original music.
He started composing for everybody. Okay.
Yeah.
It's hard work.
All right. So
same with the outro. There you go.
Oh yeah. What are we trying to do? How are we getting out of here? We got 1 minute. How are we getting out of here?
We got 1 minute. Okay. Well, all right. So what I'm going to be doing is continuing to work on this. Hopefully it looks like something. It's looking more and more like something. Yeah, it doesn't look too bad.
It looks like a
so thing. The light's coming. We're going to be continuing to work on this. And hopefully by next episode, I'll finish it off, the acrylic part, and then maybe work in some oils, and we can talk about how I go about doing that. And what are you going to be working on, Tyler?
I think next week, now that I've kind of added a little more fidelity to this, I think next week I will probably turn this black and white and make it really, really light in Photoshop and do like a super tight drawing over this, which will be what I bring to an actual canvas board or a gesso board or whatever. So what I want to have is a really nice tight drawing as I go into the actual oil painting. So that'll probably be something I work on. maybe I'll have it ready by next week, and then I can just go into the painting. I'm not sure where I'll get. Time willing.
All right. We'll see.
We'll see.
I guess.
And
That's a great
who are
note to
you?
answer.
Who are you, Ray?
I've been Ray Bonilla. You can find my work at Ray Bonilla Painter on Instagram and RaymondBonilla.com on my website. And who are you, Kate?
I'm Kate, and this preset is called Baby. Oh yeah, that definitely sounds like a little baby.
Anyway, I'm Kate.
Oh my God. It's hard to follow that. I'm Tyler. I'm here every week. You can find me at Tyler Jacobson Art. That's the baby thing is too perfect. So that's all
Oh
I'm gonna
my
say.
God. Yeah, I won't sleep well. So sweet dreams, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for all your questions, the bits, and for subscribing, and I hope you will join us for our next episode next week, same time, same place.
Same place.
Yeah.
Bye.
Happy painting, everyone.
Bye bye, everyone.